your relationship, your family life, your heart. Yeah. If pain left fingerprints on your life, where would the fingerprints show up first? Your trust, your love life, your self esteem. Yep, that's good. So here's a segment apart from chapter two, your relationships. I like that. So in chapter three, excuse me, in chapter three, the title of that chapter is "Love Isn't Blind, You Are." Love isn't blind, you are. So how many of y'all have heard of or seen that show Love is Blind? Love is Blind. Yep. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure most of us have seen it or heard of that show. Love is Blind. Here's what I write in the book. Love was never supposed to blind you. It was supposed to reveal you, reveal who you are, reveal who they are. But culture taught you that love is supposed to be chaotic. Movies taught you that chasing someone through the airport equals love. Songs taught you that toxicity is passion, but that's not love. That's lust dressed up as faith. I appreciate that. You didn't lack value, you lacked vision. You picked based on chemistry, not covenant. You picked based on validation, not discernment. I want y'all to I want to repeat that. You didn't pick A lot of us didn't pick partners based on value. We picked um, out of a lack of vision. We picked based on chemistry, not covenant. We picked based on validation, not discernment. And so one of my questions is, how many of you have ever confused intensity, another person demonstrating intensity for intimacy? And so let's think about what intensity is, right? When you first meet somebody and the sparks are hot, right? And you having all of these strong feelings and you having all of this chemistry. How many of us have ever confused that for intimacy, chemistry, sparks? How many of us have ever confused that for intimacy? I have. Um, Another moment of transparency, right? I got married when I was married before. I got married after just a month, and we thought we was doing all the right things. We did some some counseling. We thought that it was a God thing, and we were very intentional and trying to get to know each other and all of that. But I, you know, like the like I just stated here, I confused that all of those things for intimacy, right? So a lot of us have experienced that. And here's another question: what story, movie, song, or cultural message shaped your idea of love more than God's word did? I want y'all to name one of your favorite love songs in the '90s, from the '90s, that that you played on repeat, that you love to jam, that shaped how you view love, or that impacted how you view. Just name one of your favorite songs in the '90s. One of your favorite songs. The song that came to my head was songs like this didn't shape my view of love, but it came to my head. Um, Too old, can't answer. Um, Reunited. Uh, I think I hear that song. I think I know. Key Sweat popped up in my head. Um, H Town. You know. Um, there was so many of R. Kelly songs. Yep. Silk, 112, Jagged Edge, all of them. So a lot of those songs have a lot of those songs have shaped Marcus. Yep. B2M, is that B2? You mean B2K? You mean B2K or B2M? What is B2M? Do you mean B2K? Oh, okay, okay. You got to put the two. You got to put the two eyes so we can know. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of those songs impacted the way that we view love. But that's the reality is that's not a good reflection of what love is, but that shapes how we think about it. And so um, and we all can remember those a lot of those movies where you those love stories on like Lifetime and that we see where you see the guy chasing a woman, chasing after each other, doing all of these different things, and that makes us feel like what love is. And if a person doesn't do that, then we don't think it's love, right? And so here's another question: what would it look like if love wasn't chaotic, if love wasn't what those songs would describe or what those movies painted? What would it look like if love wasn't like that, but clear? What if love was clear, and what would it feel like? What would that feel like in your life, right? So if love wasn't the person chasing through the air, foggy and haze, like, do he love me? Do she love me? I wonder how she feel about me. What if love wasn't foggy, but what if it was clear? What would that feel like? What would that be like in your life, if love was clear? You know, um, here's a good question: when was long suffering, patient? Yep, the fruits of the spirit. That's right. So when was the last time you saw a red flag? This is a good one. When was the first time you saw a red flag in somebody in a relationship that you were in, but you told yourself it was passion instead of poison? When was the last time you saw a red flag, but told yourself but basically you brushed it off when you saw it and you made an excuse for it? You said 7 years ago. Yeah, I can attest, to doing that. Yeah. So I think a lot of us have done that, right? We make excuses for red flags that we see, and this um you know these unease feelings that we have. So yeah, that's good. So here's another one. So in chapter 4, this is actually 3 years ago. Appreciate that. So in chapter 4 is actually my favorite out of all of the chapters in this book, because chapter 4 is really personal to me. And I remember, I hope y'all can hear me, but I remember like going through like various relationships, and I had a checklist. How many of y'all had or have a big checklist about what you're looking for in a partner? How many of y'all have ever had or have a big checklist of what you're looking for in a partner? Anybody can attest to that, having a big checklist of the characteristics and qualities that you're looking for. Yep. Yep. So chapter 4 in the book, it says kill the checklist. And this is my favorite chapter out of. I'm gonna read a part, an excerpt from chapter 4. It says, you say you want God's will, but you're still clinging to your checklist. Tall, ambitious, God fearing, good with kids, 6-figure income. But what you tall people if they keep you from seeing what he's actually doing. Many of us aren't waiting on God. We are waiting on him to bless our fantasy. Your checklist wasn't about standards. It was about control, about protecting yourself from rejection before you even took a risk. But God doesn't build on fantasy. He builds on foundation. And sometimes the person who meets none of your expectations will exceed every one of your prayers. Let that sink in for a second. A lot of times, what we do is we create this blueprint of of the perfect person for us. That's how we justify it. See, we say, well, nobody is perfect. I just want somebody that's perfect for me. But you didn't create you. I didn't create me. So we don't know what's perfect for us even. We don't know what's perfect for us. And so what we do is we create this blueprint based on a perfect person for us. And then we give this blueprint to God and we say, hey God, here's the blueprint. God, send me a person that looks like X, Y, and Z. Instead, when we should be saying, God, prepare me for the person who you're sending. Prepare me for the man who or the woman who you want to be in my life. That's what we should be praying, not asking God to bless the blueprint that we created in our own wisdom, in our own thoughts. And also in this chapter, I write that anything on our checklist that's outside of that's that's outside of the will of God is not what we should be looking for or praying for. It could be nice things, right? Them having a six-figure income. Why do you want them to have a six-figure income? Is it because you saw your mama struggle and you said that you would never be with a woman who who um, can pump you up, right? Or give you all these words of and hype you up. Is it because in a previous relationship you feel like you didn't have that? So a lot of times what we do is we come up with these things on our list that aren't even in the Bible. Like we say ambitious. I want somebody who's ambitious. That was on my list. That was on a lot of my lists. Um, Make sure the person can stand their own checklist. Um, Ambition was a part of my list, but ambition looks different than mine, but she can carry my purpose and my vision and support me in that, right? So a lot of times we have these nice checklists, but they hinder us from actually achieving, realizing a person who God intended for. Like we could miss a whole person because they don't check off any of our boxes on our checklist, but they exceed everything that we could ever imagine. And so here's a question for you. What's one non-negotiable that you've had on your checklist that you realize now wasn't rooted in God? It was rooted in fear. My God, my God. To, preferences keep people from keep people from being happy. So what's one non-negotiable that you had on your checklist that you realize now? What I was talking to um, from a dating platform. I was talking height. That's a good one. Ooh, let me give y'all an example. So I was listening to this sermon once, and the pastor was describing women, and he said a lot of he was describing women. He said some of y'all women are like, I want a man that's 6'3", or 6'3". He makes six figures, and he yeah, he's 6'3" and he makes six figures. But he treats you bad. But he meets you 6'3" and he makes six figures, but he don't treat you right. But then a guy who, let's say, is 5'8", 5'9", he come and he don't quite make six figures, but he can treat you as good as you've ever been treated in your life. And you like, well, the devil is a lie. I know what God wants for me. That ain't what God wants for me. And that's how we are a lot of times. But the thing that's a good example is ambition, bad with it. I grew to love daddy bodies and humor, daddy bodies and humor. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of women be like, you know, like that's for me. Always just make. I'll be like, okay, well, that's not me. So I'm gonna go on, keep it moving because when people are like, in general, women in general, you are. This I'm gonna make a point. You are more likely to see a beautiful woman with a not so good looking man than you are to see a very handsome man with a not so good looking woman because men are visual. Women are looking for, generally speaking, are looking for things that are outside of looks. And so I think that what you just said is more so of a woman thing than it is a man thing. Like we're not gonna be we're not gonna be caught we're not gonna be caught with somebody that we ain't really attracted to. Y'all will. Y'all can be caught with that. A man can't. So I'll just leave it at that. So let's see. Let's see. So what was that? So I'm trying to see. So yeah, so the reality is that our checklist can keep us from what God ultimately wants for us. And so here's another question for you. Have you ever rejected somebody or something good because it didn't look like your fantasy? Have you ever rejected somebody or something good in your life because it didn't line up with your fantasy? Yeah. Have you ever rejected something good because it didn't line up with your fantasy? No, but you redirected. Okay. Um, here's another one. If you trusted God's vision over your checklist, if you trusted God's vision over your checklist, how would your standards shift? If you trusted God's vision over your checklist, how would your standards shift? If you trusted God's vision over your checklist, how would your standards shift? It wouldn't. So that means that whatever list you have or don't have is in alignment with God's vision, is what you're saying. But I think most of us, if we're being honest, you know, if if our vision, if we trusted God's vision over our checklist, our standards our standards would shift because we wouldn't really have standards. And let me explain what that means. And I'm not talking about we would have standards, but here's what I mean by that is instead of me looking for someone who treats me a certain way or meets a certain criteria, my focus is on alignment, right? So alignment in our spiritual values, alignment in you know how we feel, how we're going to raise kids, alignment in um, vision and purpose and life in general and managing finances. So instead of standards, and I'll just use that word, instead of having standards and having a checklist, oh, she have to check this box and she have to check this box. I'm listening for alignment. And so now when I talk to people, it's it's not so much about, I mean, yes, the looks opens the door. The looks open the door, bar none, right? Um, can we walk in agreement? That part right there. If two people, how can two people um, walk together? The Bible says, in paraphrasing it, how can two walk together unless they agree? You cannot walk in one accord if you don't agree how um and as it relates to spiritual values, as it relates to raising kids. Like if one person says, hey, I'm really involved in ministry, and I'm committed to being a part of the church and doing life with other people, and another person says, oh well, and I had this before, the other person was like, well, I'm spiritual but not religious, and I agree with that. I've said that about myself a lot, but it's the heart behind it. It's the heart behind that statement. And so when I digged into that statement a little bit, I I doubled down on what I was saying, and what that exposed was a misalignment in two people. So you have one person that's not really committed to that don't want to read the Bible together, that don't want to pray together, that don't want to do all of these things together, and now you got an unnecessary wedge in your relationship that you should have saw right there from the beginning, right? So you got one person, you get in, and what happens is some people get into a marriage, they get into a relationship, and here's the thing that men will do. Men, we are wired to catch. We are wired to conquer. Once we conquer, like we'll do, he'll go to church with you while he dating you. He'll go to church with you, but as soon as you get in that relationship, well, I don't want to go to church. Well, I'll do. That's why you got to alignment is so important. So I'll stop right there. So instead of looking to check boxes off, we should be looking for alignment. You have to be twins or anything, but the alignment matter. You don't have to be twins or anything, but the alignment matters. You're absolutely right. We don't have to be, you're absolutely right. You don't have to, be carbon copies of each other, but how do you complement each other? How do you support my vision and my purpose? How can I support your vision and your purpose? You still have to be careful. You're right. Um, and so the final question to that section is: are you really waiting for a blessing, or are you blocking it with a fantasy that God never promised? And so that's just a question, internal question. So I'll close out here because I got to get ready to board. Um, here's a statement that you all can ponder, right? So it's like an affirmation. So it says, "I am no longer hiding my wounds." So that's the first thing that we talked about. You have to identify and address what wounds are you hiding. Is it anxiety? Is it hurt from your childhood? Is it separation? Is it abuse? Is it neglect? What wounds have you been hiding? So I am no longer hiding my wounds. I am no longer blinded by false love. I am no longer imprisoned by a checklist. I choose clarity over chaos. I choose covenant over chemistry. I choose healing over hiding. I choose vision over vibes. And so my encouragement to you all, um, in all of this is I want to tell you this, is that you are not crazy for feeling it. You're not broken for naming it. You're not too late to heal it. Love isn't dead, but the lies you believed about love are. Bury what was killing you and rise up to what's been waiting for you. And so ultimately today, um, the chapter, the main chapter is you can't heal what you hide. And we have to learn how to redefine what love really is. Love isn't foggy, it isn't hazy, it isn't this how Hollywood paints it. How you see two people they just um, magnetic towards each other. However, Hollywood paints it, That's not what love really is. So we have to learn how to redefine love. We have to learn how to identify those things that we've been hiding, that we haven't been honest about with ourselves, because what's going to happen, what happens is we end up repeating those same cycles and bringing those that toxicity into all of our relationships. And so that's my time. I appreciate y'all coming on today, and till next time, we'll be back next Monday. With Motivate Monday, and again, I appreciate y'all coming by. I appreciate it. I appreciate